welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. Starting a new rifle and a new series development on the channel, and thought I'd show you just a few things that we'll do with it. But this will be the first, literally the first firings through this rifle. I was able to pick up for a really good deal a Savage 6.5 Creedmoor Desert Tactical rifle. And so it's a Savage 110 action. Supposedly they've been blueprinted, at least that's one thing I read. I'm not sure that's quite true. We may eventually do that. Heavy barrel, 24-inch barrel, and it just comes, I'll show it to you here in just a few minutes. But it comes with a few nice features straight from the factory. So we're going to start by shooting it just as it is in 6.5 Creedmoor. And I get a lot of components here. Eventually, the reason I really got this gun is eventually this may go to 6mm GT. That's a round I really want to explore and show here on the channel as well, because it just has some amazing initial results and development, and people have been using it now for just a little while, and it's just a caliber that intrigues me, the 6mm GT. But for now, we're going to shoot this gun and just see how good this Savage 6.5 Creedmoor can come from the factory. Now, of course, we'll show it in a minute. The factory trigger comes to is this Accu trigger, and I've shot several friends' Savage rifles with that trigger, and it's not bad. There's a lot of people that gripe about it, but at the same time, there are a lot of people that sing its praises. It's not bad, but as one of the things we'll do in this rifle series, we'll test it. So I have a Rifle Basics, a Savage 2 model trigger here, and it supposedly will go from 4 ounces to 3 pounds. Well, we'll test this. Some people really love it, some people really hate it, just like the Accu trigger. And so we'll start with all the development with the trigger that came with the rifle, but then we'll test that as well. And of course we'll do both trigger pull testing and accuracy testing on the range. We're going to be using Peterson new brass. So brand new Peterson large rifle brass. I decided to go large rifle just because I have a lot of large rifle primers that I've not been shooting. And I've been shooting a lot of small rifle in all the other series on the channel. So I decided, well, I'll buck the trend and I'll go with the large rifle. It's what the cartridge originally started with, and a lot of people have then been using the small rifle primers. Well, we're going to use large, and there's some reasons to that, and some variety of primers we'll do. But we'll start off with just the standard basic CCI 200 large rifle primer. I've used these many times in the past in 308 with Reloder 15. No issues in ignition and very good consistent results. So we'll see when we get to that point. So in our dies, you see we have the custom grade Hornady dies, full length resizing dies, and so that's sort of a standard for this. Hornady supposedly invented this round, this cartridge, modified it from another cartridge, and so we'll start with their dies. I've seen some reviews. Bolt Action Reloader did a great review on the different dies and accuracy and run out and things like that you get from these. And in the non-bushing dies, from his data anyway, it was a really solid choice. And so we'll do that. But we'll also add to it the micrometer adjusting seating stem. And so I have these on almost all my Hornady dies, these custom grade dies. Add this, and it really gives you a nice level of control for this, far less than my Foster micrometer seating dies cost. And so that's what we'll do. We'll add this to that seating die. Powders. Well, we're going to start off with some, well, one of them is a known powder in this caliber. The other one maybe is less well known to be used in this caliber. But that's Reloder 15 and Shooter's Rule Precision. And we'll talk about the actual charges and the logic behind these initially. I have IMR 4350. I have a lot of different powders, but I do not have H4350. It's like impossible to find. And like an idiot, I saw 2 pounds of it the other day in a store and decided I was going back there in a couple days. I'll get it then. Well, yeah, you can guess it was gone. It was high price-wise, but nonetheless, it's gone. So that's okay. Well, let's keep an eye out for some Hodgkins 4350, and then we'll see where we go from there. But these two powders will certainly run well. I have some data. We'll talk about the data for precision rifle that we'll have to sort of interpret and use carefully. And then Reloder 15 is straight up data in the Hornady reloading manual. Well, we're going to start too with Hornady bullets here in 6.5 at 130 grain ELD match bullets. Well, why started here? It's because I had 2 boxes of these things for the 6.5 Creedmoor ELD series. And the 6.5 Creedmoor ELD, just so far I've only found one powder that would halfway shoot them. And there's just not maybe the ideal bullet for that caliber. So we're going to try them in 6.5 Creedmoor. They should be much better matched for that. And the Hornady has them in their latest load data. Well, finally, when we do that, then we're going to use our, we'll check our seating depth with these modified cases in Hornady's system for that. And we'll find out exactly when we hit the lands, and we can start playing with that distance back. But for now, we're going to start with just a standard recommended cartridge overall length from the Hornady manual. Well, the final thing we'll do then is also look at Hornady match and ammo here. And this is the 147 grain ELD match. I liked it had the 140. That's a lot of people like that better than the 147, but it wasn't available and I could find this. But this is still crazy expensive. And so we'll break our rifle in with some loads that we'll load with a less expensive bullet, and then we'll try these and see how we do. It comes with a threaded muzzle protector, so you can put a suppressor on it. We're going to put on a muzzle brake, okay? And we'll have to do it a little bit with a jam nut and things like that to put that on there. But I kind of want to do that just to. It's not a high recoil cartridge, but anything you can do when you're shooting a lot of rounds in a day to reduce shooter fatigue like that from recoil, that's a good thing. So we'll start with that and we'll see if it affects it. And if it does, we'll put on the thread protector back on there and try it again. So anyway, I thought you'd like to see this. This is what we're going to do for the next few months, or maybe next year. We'll explore lots of different combinations. I have a ton of different bullets and several powders to try. And we'll see how well we can get this Savage rifle to shoot straight from the factory. Well, let's take a look now at that rifle. All right, here's a look at our new rifle. Now, it's a bit hard to catch in all the view of this bench that we have here, but I'll try to show it to you. So it's a Savage Model 110, as I mentioned before, and what they call their Desert Tactical. So it comes with quite a few nice features. One of it is, we'll start here with the bolt, a nice large, what they call tactical handle, so easy to grab, easy to get a hold of. Of course, we're in 6.5 Creedmoor. It's got a polymer injection molded stock with supposedly some soft grips. Now, this is really a molded in texture here, so it's not really soft as they say, but at least it's something to grip onto and hang on to. It has adjustable comb and butt plate inserts here, so you can improve that if you want. It actually fits me pretty well, just as it is, so we may not have to do anything. But if you do, there's 2 screws that come out down at the end. The butt plate comes off, butt pad comes off, and then this can come up, change it out, change the butt pad spacing, and put it back together. As I mentioned, it comes with this Accu trigger, so Savage's version of that trigger. Supposedly, I've seen some reports of people getting it down sub 2 pounds, so we will test that and see how it does. Comes with an EGW 20 MOA rail, so that's nice to have with the rifle, and we'll check all that here we get going as well. But like I said, I have an alternate trigger, the Rifle Basics trigger, that we can try later on in this too, but we'll see how we do with the Accu trigger as it is. Thread protector, nice that it comes with that, and threaded muzzle, so that'll give us an opportunity to play with our muzzle brake, and who knows, perhaps a suppressor later on, but the way it is right now to get one is just stupid. Sorry, a little commentary, but that's the truth. So right now also, they give you all these different inserts. These, here's one of the butt pad inserts. These are the cheek rest inserts as well, so that's nice. They give you a whole bunch of them. You don't have to go out and buy ones to try to adjust it. They just give them to you up front. I'll give them to you. You pay for them, but still, for the price you pay, they almost gave it to you. It's not too bad. So we'll look forward to getting this together. I got a scope coming. We'll show you that when we get it here. I think it'll be a good combination. This intent of this rifle is to get some very good accuracy, but at a much more friendly budget price. I started down the road of going down and buying custom actions and building another Remington 700 clone action. And I don't think I'm going to do that in this one. We're going to try to see what we can get out of the Savage, and then we'll do with the Savage nut barrel installation. It's quite easy to change barrels out. Then we may try some more custom barrels in this rifle. But we'll see where we get with this first. One other thing to mention, it does, of course, you expect this, and it really isn't a total unboxing kind of video, but it does come with a manual and, the dummy lock. But this thing sets in safes anyway, so that is really not so useful. All right, before we actually torque our action screws or take them off if we need to adjust the trigger, I thought we should find out what does our trigger currently have for pull weight. And so we've got our Lyman digital gauge out, and let's do a few pulls on this. So you get, I've already cleared the action. Of course, there's nothing in it, and all the muzzle's pointed in a safe direction. So let's check and see what we get. 1 pound, 11.7 ounces. All right, let's try it again. £1 pound, 14.7 ounces. £1 pound, 12.5 ounces. So for an average of 1 pound, 13 ounces. So just shy of 1 3/4 pounds for our trigger pull. So now we'll go ahead and I'm actually going to take the action out of the rifle, and we'll adjust this trigger the way Savage shows us to do. All right, so to take our action out of our stock, we have 3 screws to remove. The forward one, this tightens up against the lug, recoil lug, and so we'll take this one out. And then we have this middle one on the front of the trigger guard, and the rear one, and I believe the rear one goes into the action as well. Now that front one was fairly tight, and this middle one seems to be too, and it's kind of a pain to get to with that release handle, but there we go, got it loose. And then we'll be able to spin this thing right on out. If I loosen them up a little bit on each one of them, and then we'll take them all the way out, just to keep things from getting in a bind. All right, there's the rear one. And then this is the front of the trigger guard. All right, and the trigger guard's out of place. So I'll put these 2 screws in it just like they came out, set it out of the way. And I'll take the front one out as well. All right, and we'll set that one here out of the way as well with our magazine well. Now the action should come out. Make sure it comes out nice and even. Don't want to mess up the aluminum bedding. Now here's what the AccuStock brings to the game. A full aluminum bedding here to tie things together really tight and strong. In fact, even all the way up to the swivels are tied into this rail. So that's really a solid design. But the action, the front lug will drop into here, and then these 2 action screws are what really tightens it up. So I guess I was wrong when I said the rear one. The front one, the middle, the front of the trigger guard, and the front of the magazine well are the 2 that tie into the action, as you see here, and then the rear one securing the trigger guard at the back. So let's set this out of the way, and then we'll work on the trigger. Now, the Savage instructions and kit come with a little tool, and they'll tell you turn it clockwise to increase the pull, and you turn it counterclockwise to decrease it. Okay, I'm not sure how much more we're going to get to decrease it. Let me see if I can reposition this just a little bit, and perhaps you can see it, because they tell you that they do a visual reference here in the manual to this spring location. Let me see if I can get this manual here and show you what they're talking about. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this. Hopefully you'll be able to see this pretty well. Right here, they talk about the maximum trigger pull. You're compressing the spring upward. And the minimum trigger pull, you're decompressing the spring all the way down. And so it looks to me like it's pretty much all the way down. But let's see what we find out here. So put our little tool in there, and we'll turn this adjustment. And I said you'll feel when it runs out. Okay, you start to get a little bit of resistance there. Just a little bit, turning it counterclockwise. So then you don't ever want to stay at the extreme. So we'll come back in a quarter of a turn, and then we'll see what our trigger does. And we'll just test it here on the bench. All right, let's get our trigger pull gauge. We'll try it one more time. Now the value will change when you put it in the stock. They almost always do. All right, so let's try this again. 1 pound, 8.3 ounces. We'll try it again. 1 pound, 9.9 ounces. 1 pound, 9.6 ounces. So we got basically another 3/4 of a pound or so out of our trigger. So now we're about just right at 1.5 pounds trigger pull, just over that. And I could probably adjust that down a little bit more, but I don't want to run that down to the minimum. Okay, so we'll leave it there, put it back in the stock, and we'll see how we do with that trigger pull. And then, of course, eventually we'll switch over to our rifle basics, which says all the way down to 4 ounces. I'll never run a gun that low like this, but we'll run it down to 1/2 pound or something in that range, 3/4, and try it again. So let's put our gun back together and torque our actions. All right, let's put our action back in our stock. And again, we want to be very careful not to damage this in any way. So we make sure we get this lug down into that slot in the stock as we begin to bring it home. And so there it's dropped down in, and then everything lines up. You can kind of feel it go in, but be very careful not to damage that. Now you want to start your screws in. So let's put this front magwell screw in first. This is for the front lug, and we're going to tighten it just a little bit, not much, okay? Because then we have a specific torque sequence that Savage recommends that you do. And so, well, Savage experts recommend that you do. Okay, so we just have it just barely tightened there. We'll leave that there. And now we'll put our trigger guard back in and put our screws in there. I'll take this long one out to get it out of the way. Take all these screws out to get them out of the way here. And you've got to push this up as you put that in. So it's kind of hard to do on camera here, but we'll do it. There we go. Put that in, drop that in. Now, again, the one at the front of the trigger guard, the rear of the magazine well, is the other action screw on this 110 tactical stock. So we'll work that in there and get it to drop down in. Grab our 5/32 Allen head and just gently tighten it in place. We just want it snug. We don't want it tightened it yet because there's a torque sequence that we have to go through. And then we put our final one here in the back. And this one just goes into the plastic stock, so it can remain a little bit loose. But again, it's going to be part of this torque sequence too that we have to do. And I can't believe that what I read on the torque spec that one's that high because it's into the plastic. But we're going to follow those instructions and see what we do. So let me grab a torque wrench and we'll finish this. All right, the sequence that we're supposed to do, and what's most commonly recommended, is to torque them in a line in this direction. Not just from the center out, because really the only two screws that are on your action are these two. And this one is pulling you into the main lug. So you're supposed to have these a little bit loose. So we'll just loosen them up here just a little bit. All right. And just have them just barely loose. Now what we're going to do is set the stock up vertically and make sure the action is driving backwards against this rail. It'll be a little hard for you to see, but what I'm going to do then is tighten to just a little bit over 10 inch-pounds. Just this is the minimum setting on the Wheeler fat wrench here. And I want to make sure we're just over that to get an accurate click. But you start with 10 inch-pounds. So we'll stand this thing up and give it a little jolt. Make sure that thing's down against that lug. And then we'll tighten the top one. Clutch it out. Then we'll go to the middle one and do the same thing. And then finally we'll do the bottom one. All right, so that makes sure that we're all the way back against that lug as then we go to tighten this rifle up. So now we'll bump it up another 20. The goal will be 40 to 45 inch-pounds on that. So now we'll go to 20 and we'll start at the front. And we'll torque it out. And then we'll do this. By the way, if you use these Wheelers, they always recommend that you hear it clutch twice just to make sure it's really clutching properly. And we'll do the back one, okay? So now we'll go to 30. And from 30 on up, we'll do we'll go right to 40 inch-pounds here on this action. We'll see where it is. Okay, so there's that one at 30. And again 30. And the back one at 30. All right, now they say 40. Now this is where you get a lot of different debate on accuracy on this rifle. So we're going to have to test this. We'll set everything to 40 all the way across, but some want the front one higher than the back two, and there's different reasons for some of that. But the most common reference I've seen is take them 40 to 45 inch-pounds for all of them. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go to 40 inch-pounds here and tighten them up. All right, that's in good and snug, and that's feeling like it was when it was first out of that box. It was pretty snug. All right, so that one's good and snug. And finally, the rear one. All right, there we go. Now our action is back in and tightened up and in spec. So next thing we'll do, and I won't bother showing this on the camera, but if you haven't seen a rail installation, is we'll check the torque on all these screws. If they're loose at all, because this rifle, I mean, I'm glad it's covered in oil, but it's really oily from the factory. I want to make sure this in no way is loose. So we'll check these and tighten them up. And I'll double check, but I'm sure it's going to be somewhere 25 to 30 inch-pounds. We'll double check that torque and tighten them up. And then we can get on with installing the muzzle brake. I'll put that on. And then finally, when our scope comes in, we'll put that on. All right, time to choose our powder and a little bit of our load information for these first few shots in our rifle. And of course, we're going to be breaking in the rifle, so we're going to load more, probably around 20 rounds at the lowest powder level, and probably all out of Reloder 15. And we'll use those for the break-in procedure that we'll do. But once we do that, then we'll shoot a little bit of load development, because I need to fire form some brass. And so we'll do that and shoot up to 50 rounds here. And so we're going to use Reloder 15 and Shooter's Rule Precision, as I had mentioned before. There is data in the Hornady manual for Reloder 15. In the book version, which I have is a couple years old, the 130 grain ELD bullet is not listed. Not a big deal until you look at cartridge overall length. Well, this is the newer version on the Kindle app, Kindle book. And the 129 grain data, well, the powder charge is the same, the overall length is not. And so you see it's 2.690. Whereas if you look at the 130 grain ELD, it's 2.8. And a lot of that has to do with this nose and the polymer tip and the profile, where the ogive hits and things like that they're trying to allow for spacing in the case. But nonetheless, that's a significant difference when we set it up. And so we're going to keep 2.8 inches for our entire study, whether it's in Reloder 15 or Shooter's Rule Precision. So if you look at Reloder 15, then they recommend from 35.9 up to all the way up to 39.3. Well, we're not going to go that high. And so what we're going to do is back off the high end a little bit. And so we'll go up to 39 and then go down 0.3 of a grain increments to 37.8 and shoot 5 groups. So we'll say 37.8 up to 39 grains of Reloder 15. Now, the Shooter's Rule Precision, a little bit harder to do. We don't have data for it in the Hornady book, either the book or the electronic version. But we do have some data for 129 grain bullets on the Shooter's Rule load data on their website. And so, but this powder, I've done a lot of shooting with it, chronographing different calibers, shoots very, very closely to Varget. Very similar burn rates, very similar velocities. And so I compared that versus the Varget numbers in our book and here versus the Shooter's Rule data for 129 grain bullets. And so I came up carefully with a upper limit of 38 grains, and then we'll again step down 0.3 all the way down to 36.8. So 38 grains at the top. Well, how does that compare to Varget? Well, here 38.2 is the max for Varget, and that's supposed to get you up to 2,700 feet per second, 2,750 feet per second. I think that'll be stretching it out of a 24-inch barrel, but we'll see. So anyway, we're going to start below this and then step our way on down in 5 shot, 5 groups. And so the total range again will be 36.8 on the low end up to 38.0 on the high end. So do that to give yourself a little buffer on the high end, to use the Shooter's Rule data compared to the Varget data in this book, and be very, very careful then on this. And of course, then we're going to set our overall length the same, 2.8 inches. So don't you see the process to go through, especially when we don't have the exact information for that particular bullet with that particular powder, the Shooter's Rule Precision. But we can still make some logical decisions. And then we'll sort of watch these, and of course we'll watch for all the classical pressure signs as we shoot through them. So anyway, thought you might like to see that process. Let's get to loading some rounds. All right, in prepping our brass, preparing for loading, I went ahead and thought, well, normally I full length resize these, even brand new brass, and then, then start the loading process and prime them and everything else. Well, I thought, well, these Peterson brass have been really, really good on dimensions, and so I checked every one of them, in fact, here with a case edge gauge. So it fits the chamber properly, it's head space properly, and I think, hey, I'm really good. And then I sort of forgot. What about the inside for the neck? And so I measured this, and it's 0.256 inches on the inside of the Peterson brass. Well, the problem is our bullets are 0.264, and I checked them. That's what our bore is, and that's what these bullets are. So that means we would have 8 thousandths in diameter, or 4 thousandths neck tension on any side pressing inward. In theory, there. So then I checked the expander ball here, and this expander ball is 0.262 and a half. Okay, so if you do the math there, that's going to give us, we'll say it's 0.262, and that would give us 2 thousandths total, or 1 thousandths neck tension. That's quite a bit of difference, 8 thousandths to total, or 2 thousandths here on this diameter. So we're going to go ahead and resize these. Now, is that enough neck tension? It's light. It's light. For a bolt action, I'm not worried about it at all. We'll just check the fit of the bullets, make sure they don't come out, move around easily. But that should give us, somewhere between 1 thousandths or so each side of neck tension. That's pretty light, and we'll see how that works out. So anyway, good thing to always double check. So just because the external dimensions of the brass are perfect from brand new, the inside dimension, or how much neck tension you'll get in the end, may not be. So I'll go ahead and, I didn't want to have to clean them, but I'm going to go ahead and spray them, lube them, and resize them, and then we'll be ready to put primers in and start our loading. Onto our resizing die. Now, I've gone ahead and installed a 308 shell case holder for our 6.5 Creedmoor, run it up, run the sizing die all the way down onto the shell case, and then just turned it just slightly past, so we get a slight overcam when we do that, and tighten the collar up. Now, this is on the Hornady lock and load removable insert, which makes it then really easy to get back to where you were. Just simply do a quarter turn, and you're all set. So now these have also had Hornady one-shot case lube on there. When I'm done, I'll just wipe down the outside, and then we'll start reloading. And that's a nice feature about that lube. Normally I go through and tumble, clean these all, and wet tumble them and do all that process and dry them. But for new cases and just this shouldn't be a problem. So let's go ahead and size one of these. I'll bring it all the way down to the stop and bring it back. And then we're going to check our inside dimensions, see how this expander ball has really done, because that expander ball was 0.262. So let's see what we really get. .261. All right, and it's floating around 0.261 and a half. So that's going to give us about 1.5 thousandths neck tension. So you take that diameter and divide it by 2. So in other words, 1.5 thousandths pushing in on the bullet from either side, because our bullets are 0.264. And so that's a lot different result than what they were as they just come in the box of 0.256, where we would have had 8 thousandths total, or 4 thousandths pushing in. So we've cut almost 4 times the amount of neck tension pushing in on our bullet. So that's significant. So we'll try this setting and see how we do. If we need to turn down the expander ball and get a little bit tighter, more neck tension, or even move into a bushing die, again, no big deal. I can get all this and then do it all for my other class rifles. But we're going to start with the basics. And so this is how it's set up from Hornady. So we'll have 1 thousandths to 1 thousandths and a quarter, roughly, compression or neck tension on our bullets. So I'll go ahead and finish this resizing, and then we'll prime and start our powder. All right, we've primed our cases now with CCI 200 standard rifle primers, large rifle primers. And so I've started this. Now, starting with the Reloder 15 powder, and I'm going to load, I think we're going to do just 4 powder charges, because I need several to break the barrel in. This is a brand new gun. And so we're going to load several, 15 or perhaps even 20 here, on the low end of these powder charges just to break the rifle in. And then I'll load the remaining Reloder 15 and Shooter's World Precision on there. So I guess maybe I'll do 10 of that one, and then we'll do our load development that way. Because what we'll do is we'll fire once, clean it, fire once, clean it, do that up through 5, and then fire 2 and clean it and check for copper. If it's good at that point, then I'll fire 5-shot strings and we'll start our development. So that's sort of a combination of different methods from different barrel manufacturers that I've had over the years. And it takes a bit of time, but you know, it's worth it. It seems to be worth it anyway in the rifles that I have. So anyway, we have the RCBS Chargemaster Light go to 37.7. Then bring it over here, and we can trickle up to the exact amount. So that's 37.74. The Chargemaster Light just does a really good job. I mean, for most people, that's perfectly accurate, but the OCD part of me kicks in here, and I have to trickle on up to 37.8. So why is there 2 scales here? Well, it's because all scales have drift, and especially electronic scales, especially. And so I have one checking the other. These are really good scales overall, especially for the money. They're really good. You can pick them up on Amazon. I have some videos with previous links in there with a minute. But they drift less than some of the other ones I have. The Brifits, I really like the Brifits, but I have them drift a lot more than these Maxus Dantes do. So that's just what I do. So I'll just check them occasionally when I start up. And you can see when these really start to drift a little bit by the negative tear weight when you get the pan off the scale. Now, one of the things we won't cover all this reloading, but one of the things I'll show you is these pans and the funnel are all 3D printed. I printed them on my printer out of Super PLA, just happened to be what I had at the time, for some files on, I think it's Thingiverse or one of the sites, and they are actually working really well. They're pretty accurate. They don't cling to the powder. It's really a pretty nice thing. So if you like that and you don't find them, let me know. I'll post a link or something for them. But they're super easy to print and take no time at all. So anyway, we'll continue these loads and get our cases ready then to seat the bullets. All right, we've set up our Hornady die with our micrometer seating stem and adjusted it down to we're just touching the bullet, and then came on down until we've hit our number. So we're shooting for 2.8 inches or 2.800 inches overall length for these first rounds. And in fact, we're at 2.801. Let's keep going. That's what I got on the first one, setting it up. That's the second one. We'll check again. Now these are the lowest Reloder 15 charges at 37.8 grains, I believe. And they'll be the easiest, of course, to fit, 2.801. So let's go to the highest of the Reloder 15, which had a little more full case than did the Shooter's World Precision powder. It's a little finer. The Shooter's World Precision powder is a little finer, and it fit in the case a little bit more, not quite as full. It took more grains too, though. But neither one of them should be nearly compressed, because we're not near the max for one thing, 2.800. So we're perfectly good. So the first 5 rounds, 1,000's maximum variation. Yeah, we'll see if that holds for these bullets, because these tend to be a little bit better on overall length with these polymer tips. So anyway, we'll finish these up, and then we'll see you at the range.
Resight this one.
Welcome back in from the range. Sorry for the really short abbreviated range video and not really any live target shots either. I'd taken off with some relatives to do a lot of shooting besides just this load development, and left the main camera at the house. So about the time I'm ready to go back, the range got really, really busy. And so deploying a camera out with that many shooters and that much risk to the equipment and to the the noise and the background, all that stuff, I decided just to take a couple shots. You saw the brief video of just the setup, and then go through the results with you. So next time we go to the range, we'll make sure we get some real, good, nice target cam work as well. So let's go through our brass and take a look at our results. Now, these on the left 6 rows are all Reloder 15. Now, these first 4 shots were our beginning charge, and these were our beginning charge as well. And they were really these were really just to warm the barrel up. So we shot these 4, got it roughly sighted in, and then shot these 5 here. And so that was at 37.8 grains. And then we move on up to our top load here of 39 grains of Reloder 15. Well, you can see, hopefully you can see in the video here, there are really no issues at all. Typical 6.5 Creedmoor, the primers are slightly flattened, but nothing really, no other real pressure signs. The edges are still rounded, no significant cratering. All of them have just a very tiny little bit around the edges of it at all pressure levels, and these are all really pretty low level charges. This gets a little closer to the book maximum, but again, I'm just trying to stay away from all that and get some initial firing on the brass and then some results to work from. Well, these 4 then are Shooter's World Precision, and again, same kind of thing, not going crazy, going from the high end of the load and backing down a little bit and going this, going back that way. So we're at 37.1, 37.4, 37.7, and finally 38.0. And it's the same story here. Really, these all look identical. So we really have no pressure issues, no ejector marks or extractor smears or any kind of, edge dings where we're lifting it when we pull it off of the bolt, things like that. So all of our brass looks really good. So let's take a look at our target. All right, first up, let's take a look at our Reloder 15 target. Now, it's a little bit confusing because I had to change some of the numbers and things where I was shooting what groups. But these are our first 5 shots. Now, this is after break-in of the barrel. So I took the same load here, this beginning load of 37.8, which is this result too here. But I had shot 5 shots. So I shot 1 shot clean, 1 shot clean for the first 5 shots. Then I shot 5 shots in a row, cleaned it again. Then I shot 10 shots in a row, cleaned it, and then we started shooting these. And so this is to rewarm the barrel up. I was only supposed to shoot 4, but these are the exact same charge. And, like an idiot, I shot 1 too many on the wrong target. So, nonetheless, we see this is our warm-up and clean barrel and kind of fouling in, and then we started a group here. So first shot, second shot, and 3 shots there. So then our first powder charge of Reloder 15 was 37.8 grains. And this is our best group of the day, in fact. And we get a 0.425 MOA group, okay? And remember, this is brand new brass, brand new gun, just the load I came up with based on some book numbers, and an overall length guess of 2.825. And so, pretty good result for a pure guess on trying to get in close. And so we see 5 shots here, pretty amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This one slightly fell out, and I don't believe it was me, but it's hard to say when you're shooting this tight a group there anyway. So if you look at that, that's 0.425 included. Now, if you take these 4 out, then it is 0.243. So there's a lot of potential right here. I could vary overall length a little bit, work on this, just work on my own technique. Maybe I did that. It didn't feel like I did, but when you're this close, who knows? So that's definitely a good load to go back and visit. Okay, so then we go back up here to our next load. And sorry for this. Normally I'd progress down and we're good, but this one I go from here to here. So next we go to 38.1 grains. And this again had an excellent, all these had just, really good standard deviations, extreme spreads. Our worst extreme spread was 24. And so, it's not great, but the standard deviation is 8.7. And so you can't argue about that, especially with a really good, really new gun and new brass. So anyway, average here of 27.84, standard deviation of 5.2, and extreme spread of 12. And you can look at the results, 2 in there and then 3 there. So definitely we have a node here to work on from 37.8 to 38.1, working in between there and around those values and see what we can come up with. So velocity, 27.84 for 130 grain bullet. It's not bad. It's not near what the Creedmoor will do, but I'm looking for accuracy, not necessarily maximum velocity at this point. So our next one then is our 38.4 charge. And again, it's a really good group. All these are not bad groups. It's just some are like really, really good for a new gun. Still far from being broken in. So 38.4, it had a 2789 average, a standard deviation of 7.6, and extreme spread of 13. And, 0.715 inch group. It's like I was disappointed when I shot that, and it's like, you got to kind of wake up here a little bit. This is a good result. It's just we're seeing some really, really good results thrown in here. Okay, so next one, 38.7. Now this one opened up a little bit more, 0.999 MOA, so we might as well call it 1 MOA. Average was 2897. We had one that really jumped up, which kind of messed with this. And so 2837 average. I'm sorry. In fact, I got my numbers on the target wrong here too. So 2837 average, standard deviation of 12.9, and extreme spread of 32. Okay, so yeah, not so good. But the real tale of that story is shot 5, which is right here, was 30 feet per second lower. So I don't know if I screwed up. Probably. It's possible. I am pretty careful with the loads, but who knows. But nonetheless, we had one drop 30 feet per second and drop out. So that really opened that group up. But still, it's one MOA. So now we go to our largest group of this target, and that is 1.09 MOA. So this is our max charge of 39 grains that we did today. And here we're at 2827 average, almost the same value here as we got here. And then we have a 1.09 MOA group here. Standard deviation 8.7, extreme spread of 24. So again, not bad, just not these kind of really stellar groups in there. So Reloder 15, maybe it's not the highest velocity for this bullet, but it's not bad. Not bad at all. And so let's take a look now at Shooter's World Precision. All right, here's our Shooter's World Precision target. Now, we started here from 30, and I actually ran the target the right direction, but 37.1 up to 38.0 grain, just 4 in this group because of the way I had to do the brass for warm-up shots and things. Now this is good velocities and not bad results, but it's it's far from the velocities that we saw in the Reloder 15. Now, I have room, I think, to move these charges up. So we might do that. But I didn't gain a lot of velocity from the lowest to the highest. So from our lowest charge here, we got an average of 2726. But to our highest charge, we only went up to 2779. Okay, so that's, roughly 50 feet per second for that large of a range for 0.9 grains. Almost a full grain, we didn't get that much. But there's room to go. So I think we can certainly get close to 2800 without a problem, which is, not bad. It's respectable for a 130 grain bullet. Now, what about our group sizes? Well, this is our first one then, and we had a 0.728 MOA. Okay, so that's, not bad. Not bad. Not as stellar as we saw in Reloder 16, but not bad. But I'll show you that this is probably a pretty good node to work in here. And the reason being is, so this is a standard deviation of 10.3, extreme spread of 26, and again a 2726 average and 0.728 MOA. Well, we move over just 0.3 of a grain up, and we hit 2741. So, we went up a little, 15 feet per second. But the standard deviation is 4 and extreme spread of 9. And so that is really nice to be able to do that. And you can see then they're trying to pile in here. So this will be one just to work on my own technique, see how we good, because these were trying to do the same thing and I had one fall out. So I think we're pretty solid right in here. And so between here, maybe up a little bit, 37.5, who knows. Something in this range I think is a good number to work with for pure accuracy. Well, then we move over to 37.7 and it kind of starts to open up a little bit. So this is 1.03 MOA and a 2762 average, still pretty good standard deviation of 9.2 and extreme spread of 19. So, at 100 yards, that kind of standard deviation extreme spread really isn't your problem. So, is this me? Is it just variation in it? Is it, possibility I can adjust seating depth? I don't know. But it's not a terrible result. But on either side of that now, we have some pretty good results, pretty good targets. So I have a feeling that there's some work I could do in here to improve that a little bit. Our last target and the last charge here is 38 grains of Shooter's World Precision. And this is a 0.749, 3/4 MOA here. And it's average of 2779, standard deviation of 6.6, and extreme spread of 15. So again, really good control of velocity. I mean, it can get better. This is better. This is really good. Standard deviation of 4 and extreme spread of 9. But this is not bad at 6.6 standard deviation, extreme spread of 15. So it just makes me have some hope here that within this velocity range, this sort of node we're working through here, there's some more accuracy to be found. So shooter's roll precision, you know, not bad, not bad. It's supposed to be the equivalent replacement for Varget, and I've found it pretty close to grain for grain, not perfectly along there. Usually there's a 2 or 3/10 offset to get the same velocity, at least in my own experiments with 308. We'll see about 6.5 Creedmoor. So is it the perfect powder for Creedmoor? Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it. There's powders, you know, H4350 and some others, Reloder 16, which we're working on now as well. They get higher velocity and really good numbers as well. But shooter's roll precision, I can find occasionally. And I have several pounds of this, so it's a really good powder right now for 6.5 Creedmoor, just because of availability. So anyway, I thought you might like this, to see this. The first shots to the rifle. There is a lot more to be done with this rifle in combination. And so pretty decent numbers. So we're now at shot 69. We've shot 69 rounds through this gun. And so we are far from breaking it in. Next up, though, we'll be working with some Reloder 16. And a very common powder. Well, it's becoming common powder. Hard to find, that's for sure. But I had a pound of that and thought I was going to be using it in some 308 200 grain work. And I thought I'm going to use some of it for our 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'm really glad I did. Now, interesting thing when we get to that video is its pellet size is really large. Okay, and it was really hard to get to settle into the case right. The stated max capacities and what a lot of people are running in new Peterson Brass or anyway wouldn't fit. I mean, I was halfway up the neck with a moderate charge of 42.5 grains, and I had to settle it down and shake it down and get it to settle down in there to become just lightly compressed. So we'll see after first firing how much more I can get into it, but just a little preview of what's going to come up there with Reloder 16, and we're going to shoot this same bullet in this 130 grain ELD match. You know, it's a funny thing about bullets and combinations and things, because this in my 6.5 Grendel just shot okay. You know, different twist rates, different velocities. It changes the results altogether. But pretty good. I'm pretty happy with these bullets. Now, I was just shooting these up to break the gun in. Now I got to go find more because I like the results that we're getting here. I think it's got a lot of promise. So anyway, I hope you do like the video. More to come. I'm really enjoying this new gun. In fact, before we go, let's take a look at that rifle in its final configuration. All right, here's a look at our rifle to sort of wrap things up, because last time I showed you when we were beginning this series, this video, I didn't have the scope. And so I have our scope mounts, Weaver scope mounts, Athlon, it's an Athlon Argos BTR, 10 to 40 by 56. And so I think it's a good value for the money. Is it the best glass? Of course not. Is it maybe the best reticle? I don't know. I really like it. It's extremely fine. It's a second focal plane scope, and its reticle is extremely fine. So for bench rest shooting, target shooting, that kind of thing, this is pretty good. It's pretty good for me anyway, so far. Now, I will be honest that the reticle picture is really nice and clear, but the on target, trying to adjust the parallax and get that target really sharp, not quite so clear. But again, the day was really overcast and dark, and so I can't give it quite maybe a full approval or whatever just yet. But certainly it's perfectly good for the application, and up to 40 magnification, it was still able to be read and shot well. Turret tracked really well. It's 1/8 inch MOA clicks on it, and so that's good. Zero stop, really nice inside, pretty simple. 3 little set screws. You can set it where you want and ready to go. So it comes with the caps. Those are fine for when you go hunting. To me, and bench, they're just annoying because this flips up and it's kind of like in your way, right? If you're wearing a hat anyway, it's always right in the way. So I take it off for shooting. But not bad at all. So pretty good results for the first time shooting this. But the only thing we're going to do now is add a bubble level to it and a cant level to it. So that's, you know, something I could see in the first few shots. I'm not sure how much it really affected it, you know, 100 yards, maybe a little, but we'll try to eliminate that with some good discipline reading the level. So anyway,
that's the rifle. That's the setup. Our Savage 110 Tactical. Trigger adjusted to 1.5 pounds now. In 6.5 Creedmoor, just shot really well. About the only thing I don't like so far about the setup is I increased the comb height, and it's got to go up just a little bit more for me, and I don't think that I have a higher insert. So I'll have to check that. If I don't, then I'll work out either a jacket over the outside or work on some neoprene foam that I have to build that up a little bit to get me just a little bit more comfortable. But good results, really good results for the first time out with a gun that anybody can get. It's not a bad deal. You watch the sales on these and get them for around $600, maybe a little bit less, right? And from what I'm seeing, it's worth every penny. A lot of people give the AccuTrigger grief. A lot of people sing their praises of it. I can't complain. I've shot them before, and at 1.5 pound pull, it's pretty clean. Good wall, not much creep, good clean break, and enough follow through or over travel that it's comfortable and you can pull through your shots and hold accurately on that. So pretty happy overall. So anyway, first results on this rifle on Peterson Brass, our first loads. We're at 0.425 MOA on a brand new gun with a brand new setup. I'm pretty happy. So anyway, hopefully you like this video. There's going to be a lot more to come. I really enjoyed shooting this gun. So much less recoil than my 308. Part of that's the caliber, part of it's the muzzle brake. They're both very similar weights. But anyway, hope you like it. If you do, give me a like and subscribe.